welcome to Beyond the Playbook, where we host candid conversations about coaching, life, and leadership. I'm Coach Patterson.
And I'm Coach Smith.
And today we're diving into introductions and coaching at different levels.
All right, let's get into this. I would like to introduce Coach Patterson. Coach Patterson is a soon-to-be father. He's a husband. He's a brother. He's a son. He wears many hats. He has 12 years of coaching experience, ranging from JV head baseball coach, JV football head coach, as well as varsity O-line coach.
Yeah.
He's a civics and economics teacher here at Star Mountain High School, and we are lucky to have him on board with us.
Absolutely. Let me introduce Coach Smith. Coach Smith is a Star Mountain High School alumna. This is his fourth year coaching. He's coached middle school basketball. He's coached middle school baseball. He's coached travel basketball.
Yep. That's it.
You coached middle school baseball while you were in college too.
I did.
Which was, invaluable. He's a super young and enthusiastic coach. He's still learning. Together, though, we kind of plan to just dive into some lessons about coaching, lessons about life, lessons about how to be a better coach, be a better person, not just a better man, but just to be a better person. And we hope that this podcast can kind of help other young coaches along the way, right? Like, you always hear older coaches when you first start out say, just shut up and listen.
Yep.
And that is awesome advice. Don't get me wrong. That is absolutely awesome advice. But kind of got to talk to people and network with people, but I'm sure we'll get into that later.
Yep. Hoping to provide some insight to other coaches. And I think we provide a pretty interesting dynamic with me being pretty new to this, only 4 years in, even knowing what I know.
Right.
You are 12 years in, and we're hoping to bring in some other guest podcasters with us who have, 20 plus years on the job.
Yeah.
15 plus years on the job.
Retired guys, current guys, and ladies.
So you'll get a little taste of everybody's experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
New and old.
Absolutely.
So that's what we got going on today. We are going to get into coaching at different levels.
Yeah.
Kind of rec ball versus middle school versus high school and maybe even beyond, and kind of issues we've run into, ways that coaches should attack the different levels and things they should keep important.
Yes. I have the benefit of not being a head coach, so I can say this. At the high school level, I think in order to be successful, you have to develop relationships.
Yes.
Whether that is, let me start by saying this. Nobody wants to have an 0 season, right? Nobody wants to have a losing season. But you as a human being that is the coach, you can always take those hard lost seasons or hard losing seasons, or maybe that season didn't live up to what you and everybody else thought it was going to live up to. But you as a person can always hang your hat on, did that kid feel loved, respected, and valued while they were with me?
Yes. That's you.
But yeah, kind of going back to I guess what it takes to be successful at both of these levels is you got to build that relationship. Relationships are the foundation of a player-coach relationship.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is they got to know you care about them. They got to know that you have their back. But they also have to know that you will discipline them.
Right.
And you will hold them
accountable.
You
mean what you say.
Yes.
Yes.
You say what you mean and you mean what you say.
Yep.
Yep. And that goes for every level. I mean, being the JV guy, I always felt like I was a little bit closer to the middle school because you got those freshmen, especially in that fall semester, that they are just hormones
clueless
with feet.
Yes.
And they're just running around. But there's a way to be an authority figure without being a jerk.
Yes. You said that perfectly.
Yes.
Yes.
What does that look like for you?
A lot of it comes down to meaning what I say.
Okay.
The kids know that if they, for instance, they're out of line in class, they know that if that happens and I get a phone call or I see the write-up, I'm the one that's going to handle it.
Yeah.
And the teachers know that. We're on the same page.
Mm.
And if I let what might seem small thing slide, then it becomes a slightly larger thing, and then we have a reoccurring behavior.
Right.
So a lot of it is meaning what I say. A lot of it is, I think the kids are getting smarter than they used to be at this age.
Yeah.
And I have to prove myself in a way. Not that I have to prove anything to anybody, but like, I can't be out here just winging it. I can't show up to practice and just make something up for 2 hours.
Right.
There needs to be a rhyme and a reason for what I'm doing.
There's got to be a plan.
Yeah. When the kids see that, they buy in immediately. Yeah. One thing I will say, though, biggest difference I've noticed, because I helped y'all with baseball at the high school level 1 year when Coach Bowles was still there.
Coach Bowles was still there.
It was COVID. I think it was right before COVID.
Yeah.
And they sent college home early, and I helped for a little while.
Yeah.
Anyway, my opinion, the biggest difference between what I have to do in a season with my guys versus the worries you guys have are the wins and losses. My paycheck or my ability to coach does not depend on my ability to get wins and losses. Not where we are at.
Oh, absolutely
at
not.
1A.
I would make that argument at
Boonville,
every
North
level.
Carolina. Right.
I would make that argument at every level.
My job is to get them ready for you guys.
Yes.
Do I want to win? Absolutely. Without a doubt. I want to get as many wins as I can. It's fun. Yeah. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Yeah. But I have to know, and they have to be on the same page with the fact that if I have to take this season, for example, if I've got a kid struggling at the plate and he's my 5-hole hitter, I'm going to tweak his swing.
Right.
If it means he goes into a little bit of a slump trying to work out the kinks.
Right.
I'm going to help him and get his swing where it needs to be for higher level baseball.
Yes.
So that's kind of a big thing with what I do versus you guys are there to, yes, develop for the few athletes that are going to the next level. And you want everybody to develop, but wins and losses.
Yes.
It's a big thing.
It is a huge thing.
And it has trickled down to way too low of development phase, meaning I help out with Saturday basketballs or Saturday basketball rec leagues, running the clock and things like that. And so I get to see K through 6th grade on Saturdays. Kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, it's still modified. Half the time I'm the one reffing it. Like nothing to it. Coaches are having fun. They're just trying to get kids in the right positions. But I will tell you, I have seen kindergarten coaches put their kids in certain positions on offense to give an advantage that wouldn't be normal for kindergarten. I've seen a kindergarten coach play man-to-man defense in kindergarten.
Oh, my gosh.
I have seen 3rd and 4th grade coaches at the second half, from the time the ball jumps, have basically a 2-1-2 half-court press or a 1-2-2 half-court press just because the other team doesn't have a good ball handler. And they can do it every single time. And 9 times out of 10, guess what happens on the other end of the court? They miss the layup.
You know how I feel about this.
Yes.
At what point do you, as a person, realize this doesn't matter? The win and the loss in this game doesn't matter. These are your kids. These are your kids' friends. Let them go learn the game.
Exactly.
Let them go fun. Let them go have fun and be a kid.
Yep.
Right? Now, once you start getting up to our level, your level, that's when the wins and losses we need to start paying attention to this.
Right. Yeah. It makes my life harder when they're doing stuff. I got kids that don't know how to run 2-3 defense because 9 times out of 10, they don't do it.
Right.
By the time they get to 5th and 6th grade, they can press full court. And then it just turns into who's faster getting up and down the court.
Yeah.
They can do it in the second half
Who's the
at
most
least.
athletic guy on the floor?
Yeah.
There
Who
you
can
go.
bring it up and make a bucket?
Yeah.
And it just turns into that. And it's not teaching the fundamentals of basketball.
And Joes versus X's and O's.
Yes.
Yes.
That is, you're a poet and don't know it.
No, dude, you've been doing this as long as I have. You pick stuff up from people.
Yes.
I've heard that 1,000 times.
Yes. It is becoming a issue. And there are still coaches out there that are doing it right.
Of course. We're not sitting here saying that youth sports is the devil.
Right.
And no, we're not saying that. If you think, have you ever watched Ted Lasso?
Yes. Love that show.
I think it might not be Ted Lasso, but there's a show somewhere where somebody says sports brings people together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it should do.
Yes.
Right? Like,
yes.
These if you are caring about the wins and losses in a rec league, your community league for under middle school age, slow your roll.
Yep.
Slow your roll.
Yep.
Like, let the kids learn.
Our first bullet point that we have on here hits exactly what we're saying.
Oh, really?
Focus on fundamentals. It says at this level, skill development is the priority over winning. Teaching proper technique, teamwork, and love for the game is crucial.
Yeah.
And that's so big that so many people miss, man.
I'm looking on here at that third one.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we'll dive into that a little bit, but we'll get there.
It just reminded me of a story. Just remind me I've got a story.
Yes. So I do have a question for you.
Yeah, man.
Last year's high school football team had some kids that could get it done.
Yes.
Kids that had
a
some
lot of very talented
colleges
players
that were interested in them after high school.
Okay, yeah.
When I played, we had 2 from my senior class.
Mm-hmm.
Both dropped out. Didn't make it past a month. And then we had 1 in the junior class below us go play college football.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. So that wasn't even a conversation most of us had.
Correct.
Would you say that coaching them on a day-to-day basis is different than coaching the rest of it? Basically, in the back of your mind, do you know that, like, they're good? How much better can I get them for college?
That is Dawson. Sorry, Coach Smith. That is one of the best questions I've ever been asked in my life. And I don't necessarily know how to answer it. My immediate reaction when you were asking me that question in my head was, I don't think about it.
Right.
My immediate reaction was, I don't think about it, because in the moment, in that season, right, the only game that matters is the next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the only one that matters. The one you're either currently in or the next one.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that matters.
Yep.
So like when I've been on coaching staffs with teams that have had a metric crap ton of talent.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on a coaching staff with teams that have had very little talent. I don't want to sit here and lie and say that I've never changed my expectations, but in the moment, I don't think I have.
Right.
Because we had our first spring ball practice today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny you asked me that question, because I'm sitting here and I'm reevaluating the kids that I've just had for a year. Right. And I'm sitting there going down all 4, and I think it was 5 or 6 of them today. And I'm going improved. And then I'm going, okay, where did he improve? Where did this one, that one, is his steps better? Is his stance better? Is his weight transition better? Is this, I'm an offensive line guy. Sorry. And I wasn't looking back on that, at no point did I compare them to a kid I had last year. I compared them to who they were.
Right.
Last year.
Yeah. We're not filling big shoes.
Right.
We're just trying to make ours bigger.
Yes. Right. Great.
Yes.
Love that. But yeah, so that's a really difficult question. Like, as Coach Hutchins used to say, every coach loves to sit around and tell war stories.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of it. I've sat around and talked about the running backs I've watched run, the legendary offensive linemen at Starmont High School that went to South Carolina and here and there and, all that. But I've never compared a kid that I've coached to another kid in that way.
Right. Let me give you my two answers to that question.
I would love to hear that because that threw me for a loop.
So my first answer would be the PE side of me in the 4 years of health and PE education that I received from the great Appalachian State University. Yes. We talk a lot about a thing called differentiation. So within a lesson plan, you got to have ways to make it either easier or ways to make it harder. For the kids that are a little more highly skilled than the others, you make it a little more difficult so they're still engaged and they're still improving.
Right.
And the kids that are struggling a little more can feel like they're accomplishing more at the same time. So if Sally can kick a ball 2 out of 3 times is the easy one.
Right.
Someone else might be, well, Sally can kick it 80 feet 2 out of 3 times. Right. Just something like that.
Yeah.
So you get that differentiation. And the team I have now, I have a couple of guys who are at a higher level than the others. And so if I'm not making sure they're improving alongside everybody else, I don't feel like I'm doing them justice, if that makes sense. Not that I'm treating them any differently.
Right.
And not that I necessarily have higher expectations for them, which I do, but I don't make it obvious, first and foremost. I don't watch his backup make a routine play or miss a play and then him do the same thing and I just freak out on him. That kind of thing doesn't happen. But
I am guilty of that.
I'm going to be a more, like I say, we're doing daily warm-up for infielders where we're working on short hops and things like that. I might be a little more attention to detail focused with him. The smaller things, focused on those kinds of things, making sure those become routine for him.
Right.
As he moves on, that advances.
Yes. That
would be my answer. Is as a team whole, they don't get treated any differently and they don't practice any differently than everybody else. But I feel like there's more attention to detail with those guys.
Yes. There's definitely more attention to detail.
Which goes right into youth sports.
Yes.
Even lower at the middle school level, you're going to have 2 or 3 guys that are really good. You're going to have 2 or 3 guys that might struggle a little more, and you're going to have a middle of the pack.
Yep.
I've seen many cases where coaches are either really good at coaching the really good kids, really good at coaching the really bad kids.
Yeah.
Or not really bad. I don't want to say that.
You see that in teachers too.
Yes, less skillful, and often forget about the middle of the pack guys.
Yes,
they're decent. And a lot of times they're harder to get up to the next level.
Yes.
But that's something we have to focus on.
Yes.
Which, in my opinion, means more prep on the coach's part. They have to do their due diligence and be ready to say, all right, let's move into this as an advance. Saying we're getting pretty good at this. Here's how we're going to get better. And have more challenges ready versus if they struggle with something, be ready to break it down in a skill set. Be like, hey, let's start at A, and when we get A, we'll go to B, and we'll get B, and then we'll get all of it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I think, and I understand the fact that a lot of youth coaches, I mean, everybody in our county is volunteered. I don't think any youth coaches are paid.
There's a single one.
So they're volunteered. They're working 40 hours a week. They've got their own kids and families to worry about.
Yeah.
And they're having to plan and prep for 1 to 2 practices a week.
Yeah.
Which is tough.
Very.
I get that. But in a sense, you're doing a disservice to the kids if you're not doing those things. And I don't say that to be hard on anybody.
No. It comes from a good place.
Yes.
I think how I would say that maybe, which I think we kind of did, was just focus on fundamentals.
Yes.
Just focus on those.
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense to me to do. It is a disservice. Just like you said, I heard a man one time say that, in a sinking ship, you'll grab a thimble.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what that in my weird brain, how that relates to this is, even the kid that can only bunt is valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you can get that kid from bunting to infield singles,
even when
like incremental progress, people, is still progress.
Yes. Help him make the connection of, hey, you can bunt really well, which means you see the ball really well, which means you can get the barrel to the ball really well. Let's just take it from here to the ball and see where that gets us. These kids, from what I've noticed at our level, which is middle school, is they have a hard time making connections between, I can do this, I can't do that, how do I get there?
I think there's become a disconnect in our society of what discipline really is, what discipline and work ethic really is, and what talent is.
Yes. Yeah.
There's become a huge disconnect there.
I agree.
I think we've talked about this before, right? Like, I think we talked about it a little bit earlier in the podcast, actually, about how like a kid will just get done.
Mm-hmm.
He's just done.
Yeah.
And like that kid was a stud in middle school.
Right.
And then, okay, well, what happened? Well, he didn't decrease, but everybody else caught up.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. And
you also see that in, school choice. I don't want to get political, but in this, I call it sports choice, where, like single sport. Oh, I'm choosing to take my talents to baseball or basket, whatever. Like that's all fine and good, but just be open.
Yeah.
Just be open. Learn the fundamentals. Make sure you're treating human beings how you would want to be treated.
Yep.
I don't understand. Sorry, I'm rambling, but it just doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
It just doesn't.
Let's dive into a couple of these bullet points we wrote for coaching high school athletes.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
With handling external pressures and establishing team culture and leadership. I'm going to say this. For external pressures, we're talking about, social expectations, girlfriends, and grades in class, and expectations from mom and dad. You're dealing with those kind of things, as well as team culture and leadership, where you're having to get everybody on board with the same idea in mind. Makes sense?
Yeah.
Whereas me at the middle school level, I'm introducing culture.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about it. We're getting on the same board on some things, but it's not our full identity of who we are.
Right.
Where it kind of has to be for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I think how I've always viewed it in my brain is that middle school kind of introduces what team rules look like.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so this is what it's like to be held accountable to team rules. But then once you get to us, like, there's there's a lot more school pride involved. You're there at the school longer.
Right.
Right? Like, that was always a problem with middle school, and talking about middle school as well. 7th grade, 8th grade, and then you're gone. There's really no time to build like an identity.
Right.
At the high school, look, it's Starmount. We've always had a tradition of tough-nosed GATA football.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I said that with some authority in my voice. Because we're coming after you.
Right.
We're going to get after it.
Right.
And I've seen places that have struggled with culture. Like, I think about kind of a little bit more local to us. I think about how the old heads always talk about Carver.
Mm-hmm.
And now you go to Carver and you're like, where's all that school spirit that people used to talk about?
Right.
What's going on? Which, issues happen all over. And I'm not saying it couldn't happen here. I pray it doesn't happen here. We've got a great community. We've got a great fan base that cares about us, which kind of leads me into talking about external pressures.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, look, That's on every coach's mind, whether they will admit it to you
Yes.
or not.
Yes.
It is on our minds.
Yes.
You know, you take a hard loss on Friday night, it's real hard for the wife to drag you out of the house Saturday morning or Sunday morning.
Yep.
It's real hard.
Yep.
Real difficult.
It's a real thing that you have to think about.
Yes. You have to think about
as
it.
much as you don't want to let it weigh your decision
Right.
over a decision for the team.
Right.
It's in the back of your mind.
Oh,
I mean, it's politics.
Yeah.
It's a form of politics.
It's a form of politics.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It is.
But, it's weird because we're saying, it almost makes it sound like we're saying it's bad. It's not. Right. Like
there's a lot of good that can come.
There's a lot of great.
You get it right. You get a culture behind you that is thriving and supportive, and the kids want to play for that. Yeah. And that's huge.
And it'll create headaches. It will.
It can.
It will.
It can.
And yes.
Yeah.
But you get a good culture behind you. You get a good identity. And let's stop for a second and talk about what identity actually is.
I've been wanting to get into this. Let me preface it with this.
Okay.
When I got out of high school, I had a big issue with this identity thing. And I carried it with me through college, and it was the first thing on my mind when I got my first coaching job in Watauga County. I had multiple coaches throughout my career who had their coaching identity. They had their way of doing things.
Yes.
And you had a group of athletes that weren't built to do those things. Take basketball, for example. You got a way of doing things. Maybe you got a lot of plays set up for a 3-point team, or you got a lot of plays that are set up for a big man presence or a couple big men. And you get a team in there that doesn't have a true big man. And coaches being so stubborn because of what they think their coaching identity is, and only doing it their way. They try to mold their team to fit their identity and not mold their identity to fit their team.
So you can do that at the college and pro level.
Yes.
You cannot do that.
When you can pick who's on your team, to that extent.
When you get to choose, you can do that.
Yes.
That is... I see... I'm in that weird stage between being an old head and still kind of being a youngish guy.
Right.
But I'm a middle guy that was brought up by old heads.
Right.
So I hear that. But there is a voice in the back of my head that's sitting here going, that's bullcrap.
Right.
You've got part of growing up is learning to work in the system you have been placed in.
Yes, I agree.
Now, there's a difference between scheme, which is what I would say you were describing more.
Yes.
And identity, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yes. There's a lot of coaches out there that get one mindset, one way of thinking.
Yes.
And if their team doesn't fit that mold that they have in mind, I love wing tee football as much as any guy.
Ooh,
I love wing tee football as much as any guy.
About her.
But if you don't have a good, strong running back that can go between the B gaps with authority, and you don't have another back that's got some speed that can get to the corner.
See, I disagree with you. The whole reason the wing tee was created was so that it didn't matter.
It makes it tougher.
You have.
When you had my freshman year, think about who was on that team.
Okay.
Who you had behind the quarterback and who you had on the wings.
Okay.
And their ability to either go that way or beat you that way and then go.
But see, the wing tee's designed to give you both of that. You've got the jet.
But if you don't have one,
you've got the stretch and you've got the vert.
But you've got to have this to balance that. If you can't get a back end that goes 4 yards in your face every time he touches the ball and balance that with a guy that you have to keep up with sideways, it makes it tougher. And I'm not saying it doesn't work, What I'm saying, but you have to be open-minded in maybe finding some new ways to make that running back that maybe can't go 4 yards in your face work.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
I hear you.
I'm not saying abandon all ship.
Right.
And completely start from scratch, but modifying what you have into fitting more of your team's abilities.
Okay.
That's where I'm at with it.
Okay. I hear
There's a fine dance there.
There is.
There is.
I mean, I'm one of those guys.
Yes.
I love it. I'm an offensive line guy.
I'm not hating on the wing team
guy.
Yeah, I'm not hating on it.
No, I hear you. Just don't talk bad about it. Don't talk bad about it.
Oh,
goodness gracious.
Yes.
So we were talking about let's see. External factors, we talked about that. You do feel it.
Yes. Do we want to touch on parent involvement? I think we can.
In what capacity?
How you should handle parents at the youth level, the middle school level versus the high school level. Well, not so much how to handle it, but the expectations at the 3. This
is going to sound absolutely terrible.
Yes.
This is going to sound absolutely horrendous to say out loud.
Okay.
You treat them like a puppy.
Treat the kids like a puppy?
Yes.
Okay.
The parents
at all 3 levels?
The parents have to treat the kid like a puppy.
Okay.
Okay. Youth level, rec level, is puppy's been brought home. 0 to 2 months.
Yeah.
Ain't potty trained, ain't nothing.
He doesn't know.
Come to practice, be involved.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Make sure that your child everything's be involved. Be an involved parent.
With one caveat to that.
Don't make things harder.
Exactly.
But if things in your family come up, things with your family come up.
Yep.
Right? Like rec league, you do not need to speed out of fear of being late for a rec league game. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sure some rec league coaches are probably mad at me right now. But
I agree.
I mean, you probably shouldn't speed for Super Bowl, maybe, but
right.
Let's just be real for a second here.
Yeah.
And then middle school, okay. I got to cut the reins back a little bit.
Yes.
Maybe I don't show up to every practice.
Right.
Maybe I don't bring baby sweet angel.
I'll put it this way.
A Gatorade in the dugout.
You'll our parents sit in their cars on top of the hill.
I'm fine with that.
They can see everything, supervise everything, but they're not on the field. They're not hearing everything we have to say. They're not micromanaging us, or it feels like they're not micromanaging.
Right.
But they're still watching and making sure their little baby's okay.
My brain doesn't even go there. My brain goes to how can we teach these young, in our cases, young men, and women's coaches come on. I'm sure, I'm sure they do this as well.
Yes.
Young women.
Yes.
How to be on their own. They need to start learning that.
Yep.
Right? It can't just be, oh, can I go to the bathroom and call mom and she signs me out of class?
Right.
Right? Which happens. That's when you are attached, and I'm a soon to be father. I'm going to be guilty of being super attached. I already know it. I'm already wrapped around that little girl's finger. At some point, you got to start letting go.
Yep.
You got to start, they got to start figuring out how to solve their own problems. They got to start figuring out how to be a member of society and what that looks like, and how you have to regulate your own emotions and keep yourself in check. And you can't just fly off the handle because you're going to go stomp off and sit in the car with mom or, blah, 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 blah. Let's start letting our kids learn to be young men and young women.
If it's minor information, I won't put it on remind. I'll make sure that the kids tell their parents little things like that versus just sending everything to remind and having the parents handle it.
Yes, absolutely.
But
I will preface that with saying the important stuff communication with parents is key.
Yes.
I'm not sitting here saying, no, parents, we're never going to talk to you again. But just understand from a coach's standpoint, we want to see your child grow, not just in the sport.
Right.
We want to see your child grow as a person. And part of that is them learning who they are without you there.
Yep.
Sorry. Yep. I just had to
No, you're on the money.
I didn't want anybody thinking that we were anti-parent.
So how about high school? Let's say high school football with you guys. How do you handle parent engagement or that kind of thing?
We have a policy of don't come talk to us game day after the game.
Yes, that's the thing here too.
Because, parents, I know that you are just as jacked up about this game as your son or daughter or whoever is. We are too.
Mm-hmm. Emotions are high.
We are jacked up. You're 6 Red Bulls deep and you've just beat the cross county rival 40-something to nothing, and you go back in that locker room and it is or you're in the conference championship game and you lose 21-14 and you're not very happy.
Yes.
Right? So you're trying to regulate those emotions in front of your kids.
Right.
And then you've also got adults, which goes back to that external pressure. And then you're not. Yeah. Your hair's up.
There's a lot of coaches that won't even talk to their kids after a game.
Yeah.
They especially, I won't if it's a big dramatic loss or something. Right. I'm mad. I'm smoke out of my ears. If I'm that upset about it, I will wait till the next day. Not out of, I know myself. I'm pretty good at controlling what comes out of my mouth. But
I'm not.
I will say there's a higher risk of me saying something, A, that isn't true. I haven't been to the stats and seen.
Right.
Or B, something I don't fully believe in what I said.
And what you said. Yeah,
right. Yeah. Emotions are high.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of teams that they'll do that every time there's a game, good or bad. They won't talk about it until the next day.
That's an interesting practice. I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't either. I think it doesn't work for me. And it doesn't. It's not for everybody.
Right.
It doesn't always work for me. But I will say a handful of times I've been hot after a ball game. There was a game this last basketball season where we did not play all that well. We showed like we could play with the team, but it didn't. We just fell apart at the first sign of getting beat on.
Adversity.
Yes. And we came back in the locker room, and you could hear the other team cheering, just like they had won the Super Bowl. I sat in silence the entire time they cheered until the other team broke it down. And then I said, make sure you clean your trash up. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
You don't talk about it tomorrow.
And that was it.
Which, that wasn't not a talking to.
Yeah. They got
the message.
Yes.
You can send messages without talking.
Yep.
I'm reminded of, there's one post-game speech that I would give about anything to have back. It's one that haunts me. I can't remember who we were playing, which is weird for me. I usually remember that kind of stuff.
Right.
For some reason, I want to say it was West Stokes, but I don't think that's right. We had ended up coming back and winning a game. And I mean, we just played terrible. First, second, third quarters. And somehow we turned that thing around and I think we won the ball game like 28-21. I think like it was like a one score. We ended up pulling it out.
Yeah.
And it was wild. And that was a year we had a lot of new coaches on staff, and I didn't really know everybody that well. So you know how it is. You got the head coach here, the kids are there, and the coaches are behind the kids.
Right.
And I started off with, that was a good win. And I remember looking back, and there's one specific coach who got really excited, and I saw him brighten up and smile.
Yeah.
And I said, but those first 3 quarters showed us what all we have to work on. And then I saw almost the entire coaching staff in unison go.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the kids and I was like, oh, I did not read that room at all.
Yeah.
I did not read that room at all. Yeah. And I should have understood, capitalize on the excitement right there.
Yep.
capitalize on the excitement, let them enjoy it. But I was a young coach, and I was still so focused on wins and losses and handling it. I kept thinking, okay, get better, get better, get better, get better, get better. And all those external pressures will go away. They're never going to go away. They're always going to be there.
They don't. I want to touch on one thing before we go into final thoughts.
Yeah.
I want to give advice to the younger coaches that may be listening in. Something that a lot of coaches that I have known personally have struggled with. I don't know how, don't know why, but I seem to be pretty decent at it. And that's not taking it home. Meaning your emotions and frustrations and whatever you're feeling after a bad game, after a bad practice, not taking it home, especially if you have a family at home to go to. A lot of coaches may leave a game upset and mad at the world, and that goes home to a family that didn't do anything to deserve any of that.
Correct.
If you give me 10 minutes in my office or in my car after a game, it's gone. I can lock it out, leave it at the house before I walk through the doors.
That is one that I may not give the best advice to.
Yeah.
I struggle with that a lot.
It's not easy.
And it's really hard for us in these rural communities because we're so, you and I, we both came up through this school system. We both became employees of the school system. We, in some fashion or another, know everybody, their aunt, their uncle, everybody.
Yeah.
And that brings its own host of problems.
Right.
But it also brings its good things.
Yeah.
With that being said, it's very difficult to not bring it home.
It is.
You beat the cross-county rival and everybody's beeping when they go by your house and everybody's waving and, hey, how you doing? How's your mom and them? And next week you get beat. Nobody beeps. Nobody looks at you.
That hurts.
That can hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
But as far as bringing it home, I have a wife that you've heard me describe her. She's a freaking Disney princess. Birds and squirrels and chipmunks come and eat out of her hand, and crows bring her gifts. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But she is like a bottle of Valium. I can come home and be rip-roaring mad about a game. I can be rip-roaring mad about a kid. I can be rip-roaring mad about whatever.
Right.
Hey, honey, how are you? I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
And if I'm not, I will be in about 15 minutes.
Yeah. It takes practice. Not everybody can just leave it at the door.
Yeah.
You got to find something that works for you and just stick to it.
You got to find something.
Yeah.
And please let that something be productive.
Yes.
And that's kind of where I'm just going to leave that.
Yes. Our final takeaways. We want to re-emphasize that youth coaching should be about fun, fundamentals, and introducing the sport.
Yes.
Not so much concerned with wins and losses. Are they nice? Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's icing on the cake.
It's icing on the cake. You're making the dough right now.
Yes.
You're making the dough in the youth leagues.
High school coaching should be about development, competition, and preparing athletes for the next level of life. And I like that we put next level of life, not next level of competition.
Correct.
Because you might be gearing some of those guys up for college ball. You might be gearing those guys up to go to the military.
Yeah. You might be gearing those guys up to go to college. You might be gearing them up to go work on a work crew. Yeah. You never know.
Yeah. And everything it relates over. And it's all important from T-ball, college ball to pro ball to whatever coaching experience you're going through.
It's important to death.
Yes.
How you treat other people is important to death.
Yes. Couldn't agree more.
Amen.
All right.
Well, guys, that's it, I think, for this episode of Beyond the Playbook. Thanks for listening in, watching in, however you are choosing to consume our content. Don't forget to subscribe or follow us on any and all social medias. Until next time, have a great time.
I like that.